High above the endless blue of the sea, a boy stretched his wings for the first time. His father, Daedalus, had crafted them carefully, feathers bound with wax, a miracle of invention born out of desperation. Together they rose from the prison of Crete, the labyrinth behind them, freedom ahead. The air was sharp, the horizon infinite, and for a moment Icarus was no longer a prisoner or a fugitive. He was a god in flight. The story is always told with the same ending. The boy ignored his father's warning, flew too close to the sun, the wax melted, and he plunged into the waves. It is a tragedy, and for centuries it has been used as a warning about arrogance and disobedience. Don't overreach, don't be ambitious, stay in your place. But what if we've misunderstood the lesson all along? The myth is usually framed as a punishment for hubris, for daring to want more than the gods allowed. Yet when you look deeper, the story isn't just about the fall, it's about the flight. Icarus may have plunged into the sea, but for a brief and brilliant moment he touched the sky. He did what no one else dared. He lived fully, even if it cost him everything. The real question the myth raises is this: is it better to live carefully in the shadows, or to burn brightly for even a short time? The traditional moral tries to push us towards safety. Keep your head down, avoid extremes, don't take risks. It's the same message that society often whispers to us today. Don't aim too high, don't make a fool of yourself, don't take the chance of failure. But this so-called wisdom hides a deeper tragedy. To never risk anything is to never really live. If Icarus had listened perfectly to his father, if he had flown low and safe, we would not remember him. His life would have faded into silence, another faceless figure lost to history. Instead, he chose the sky. He dared to test the limits of human possibility, and though he fell, he left behind a story that still burns in our collective imagination thousands of years later. Perhaps the myth isn't telling us to stay grounded, but to understand the cost of daring, and to embrace it anyway. The fall was not a failure, it was the price of touching greatness. Think about it. What is more tragic, a man who risked everything and falls, or one who never risks at all and spends his days wandering the maze of mediocrity? The labyrinth of safety is a slow death. It keeps you alive, but only barely. Flight, even if it ends in the sea, is the life that shakes the heavens. Maybe the lesson of Icarus is not, do not fly too high, but better to fall in pursuit of the sun than to live forever in chains. His fall reminds us that life is not measured by how safely we arrive at the end, but by how fully we dared to rise while we were here. For most of history, the myth of Icarus has been presented as a simple cautionary tale. The Greeks themselves were a culture obsessed with balance, moderation, self-control, staying within limits. To fly too high was to challenge the gods, to overstep the boundaries of what was human. In that worldview, Icarus wasn't a hero, but a reckless boy who failed to listen to wisdom. His fall was the punishment for arrogance, a reminder to mortals to know their place. This is why the myth is often told to children as a moral lesson. Don't disobey your parents, don't be too proud, don't try to rise above what's allowed. At first glance, it seems like a neat story that reinforces a culture of restraint. Yet myths are rarely so one-dimensional. They endure not because they give one answer, but because they open many questions. And when we look at the story of Icarus through another lens, the lens of personal growth, of existential philosophy, it begins to tell us something very different. Instead of seeing Icarus as a warning, we can see him as a symbol. His wings, fragile yet miraculous, represent the possibility that human beings can reach beyond the ordinary. His flight, brief but breathtaking, becomes a metaphor for ambition, daring, and the willingness to risk everything for something greater. In this interpretation, the tragedy isn't that he flew too high, it's that most people never fly at all. Philosophy has long wrestled with this question of ambition versus caution, risk versus safety. On one side is the Greek tradition of moderation, Aristotle's golden mean. The idea that virtue lies in balance and extremes lead to destruction. But on the other side, centuries later, thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche flipped this script. Nietzsche argued that human beings are not meant to be tamed creatures who live safely within limits. We are meant to overcome ourselves, to constantly push past boundaries, even if it means danger. His concept of the Übermensch was built on this very idea. To live fully, one must dare, even at the risk of ruin. In this way, Icarus looks less like a warning and more like an early symbol of the will to transcend. Even existentialists like Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre found meaning in struggle rather than safety. For them, life has no ultimate guarantee, no fixed purpose handed down from the gods. The only way to make life meaningful is to act with courage, to embrace freedom, to take responsibility for creating your own values. Icarus embodies this existential stance. He doesn't stay in the labyrinth, resigned to the prison of circumstance. He doesn't remain content with half measures. He takes the wings, fragile though they are, and pushes himself into the unknown sky. In doing so, he accepts the possibility of falling. His act is pure freedom. He chooses to live on his own terms, even if it kills him. When we view the myth this way, the whole meaning changes. The Greek cautionary reading says, "Don't go too far, don't risk too much, or you'll pay the price." But the existential reading says, "The price is worth it." It says if you never risk, you're not really alive. This is where the myth becomes philosophy. It stops being a simple bedtime story about obedience and becomes a profound reflection on the human condition. All of us are trapped in some form of labyrinth, circumstances, routines, fears, expectations, and all of us are given wings, the fragile but real potential to rise above them. The question is, do we dare to use them? Think about how this plays out in modern life. So many people choose the low flight because it feels safe. They take the job they don't love, stay in the relationship that doesn't inspire them, follow the rules that keep them comfortable but unfulfilled. Society encourages this path. Parents say, be practical. Teachers say, don't aim too high. Employers say, be realistic. It is Daedalus's warning echoed endlessly through culture. Don't fly too high, don't take the risk, don't tempt fate. But the cost of obeying is a life spent close to the waves, where the salt water slowly soaks your feathers until you forget you ever had wings at all. In contrast, there are those who choose the Icarus path, entrepreneurs who risk failure to build something new, artists who risk ridicule to bring their vision into the world, leaders who risk rejection to speak truths people don't want to hear. These are the modern Icaruses, people willing to dare even if it means falling. History rarely remembers those who played it safe. It remembers those who took risks so great that they redefined what was possible. The Wright brothers flew into ridicule before they flew into history. Vincent van Gogh died in poverty, his genius mocked, but his art reshaped the world. Every story of greatness begins with a decision to ignore Daedalus's warning and fly anyway. And yes, sometimes they fall. Failure is inevitable when you aim for the sun, but even in failure there is a kind of victory. To have dared is to have lived. To have risked is to have been free. In this sense, Icarus is not a boy who died young, but a man who achieved something most never do. His wings melted, but he tasted the sky. He touched the very thing that makes us human, the desire to transcend, to go beyond, to test the limits of existence. This reinterpretation forces us to reflect on our own lives. Are we living in the Greek cautionary version of the story where safety is prized above all else? Or are we willing to read our lives through the existential lens, where meaning is found only by daring, The myth of Icarus invites us to choose. It asks, will you be content walking the endless corridors of the labyrinth, or will you risk everything to see the world from the sky? When viewed as philosophy, the myth is no longer about punishment but about possibility. It becomes an allegory for ambition, not blind arrogance, but the kind of daring that accepts both the beauty of flight and the risk of the fall. It teaches us that to seek greatness is not to guarantee success, but to guarantee a life worth remembering. And maybe that is the real point. Better to be remembered for the courage to fly than forgotten for the caution that kept you chained to the ground. In the end, Icarus is a mirror. If you see him only as a fool who disobeyed and fell, it might be because you have chosen safety over risk in your own life. But if you see him as a symbol of ambition, a soul who refused to settle for the prison of safety, then you glimpse a truth that philosophy has whispered for centuries. Life's meaning is not given, it is made. And it is made by those who dare to fly, even if their wings cannot last forever. The detail that is often overlooked in the myth is the warning Daedalus gave his son. He didn't just tell Icarus not to fly too high toward the sun. He also warned him not to fly too low, because the waves and their spray would weigh down his wings. What Daedalus was really advising was the middle path. Not too high, not too low. In other words, stay in the safe zone, the place where risk is minimized and balance is maintained. It was the advice of a cautious father who wanted to protect his child from danger. On the surface, it sounds like wisdom. Who can argue with avoiding extremes? But when you look closer, you see that Daedalus was essentially telling Icarus to live a life of careful mediocrity. Never aim too high, never fall too low, just hover in the middle where nothing extraordinary can happen. This warning reflects a mindset many of us have absorbed without realizing it. We are told from a young age that safety is the highest good. Stay in school, get a stable job, don't take unnecessary risks, follow the rules. The invisible message behind these instructions is the same one Daedalus gave. Don't fly too close to the sun, but also don't sink too close to the waves. Keep yourself in that middle lane where society approves of you. But what is this middle lane if not a cage? It keeps you alive, yes, but at the cost of freedom and greatness. You survive, but you do not soar. Safety, when taken as the ultimate goal, becomes a trap. It keeps you from the dangers of failure, but it also keeps you from the possibility of real success. It shields you from rejection, but it also robs you of the joy of being truly seen. It prevents you from the sting of falling, but it also denies you the thrill of rising. When safety becomes a cage, life becomes smaller and smaller, until all you are doing is maintaining what you already have, terrified of losing it. This is the logic of the labyrinth all over again, moving through corridors without ever breaking free, circling endlessly in the name of protection. Modern society is built on reinforcing this cage of safety. Look around and you'll see how deeply ingrained the message is. Schools often reward conformity more than creativity. Companies prefer predictable workers over daring innovators. Social media punishes those who think differently while rewarding those who say what is safe and popular. Everywhere you turn, the unspoken rule is the same. Don't stand out, don't take a risk, don't expose yourself to the possibility of failure. We are taught to chase the illusion of stability, to find comfort in the middle path, and to call it wisdom. But what we are really doing is clipping our own wings. The fear of failure is the strongest lock on this cage. From childhood, we are conditioned to see failure as something shameful. A bad grade means you're not smart. A failed relationship means you're unlovable. A failed business means you're incompetent. These conclusions are drilled into us until we begin to avoid failure at all costs. but to avoid failure is to avoid life itself. No one who ever accomplished anything great did so without stumbling, falling, or risking humiliation. Every artist, thinker, or leader who shaped history did so by defying Daedalus's advice and risking a flight that could end in disaster. By turning safety into our highest priority, we make mediocrity inevitable. Think about how many dreams die inside this cage. Someone wants to be a writer, but they choose a safer career path and never pick up the pen. Someone wants to travel the world, but they are too afraid of leaving their stable job. Someone wants to speak their truth, but they silence themselves because it might upset people. The wings are there. Everyone has the ability to take flight, but the warnings of Daedalus echo too loudly. Don't go too high, don't risk too much, don't be different. So they keep their feet close to the ground, wings folded, never daring to see how high they could go. The irony is that this obsession with safety doesn't even guarantee protection. Life is uncertain no matter what. You can play it safe, stay in the middle, avoid risk, and still lose your job, your health, your relationships. The waves can still pull you down, even if you never dared to rise. The cage of safety is not even as secure as it pretends to be. What it does guarantee, however, is a life unlived. A life where you avoid not only the possibility of pain, but also the possibility of greatness. You trade the full range of human experience for a narrow corridor of predictability, and you call it wisdom. Philosophers and thinkers have long warned us about this trap. Kierkegaard, the Danish existentialist, argued that the greatest danger is not that we might fail, but that we might succeed at things that don't matter. To live safely is often to live pointlessly. Nietzsche, too, spoke of how people cling to comfort, never realizing that comfort makes them weak. To him, true strength and greatness are born from risk, from struggle, from daring to step into the unknown. Even the Stoics, who valued self-control and caution, did not advocate for mediocrity. For them, courage was one of the cardinal virtues. Courage cannot exist without risk. To live without risk is to live without virtue. So when we think of Daedalus's warning, we need to see it for what it is, the voice of fear disguised as wisdom. It is the same voice that whispers to us today when we hesitate to take a chance. It says, "Don't apply for that job, you might be rejected. Don't confess your feelings, you might be hurt. Don't pursue your dream, you might fail." These voices are the walls of the cage tightening around us. They may keep us from falling, but they also keep us from flying. The question then is whether we are willing to accept this trade. Do we want a life that is merely safe, or do we want a life that is full? If we choose safety as our highest value, we must accept the cost, a smaller existence defined by what we avoided rather than what we achieved. If we choose risk, we must accept another cost, the possibility of failure, of pain, of falling into the sea. But at least in that choice, we are alive. We are participants in the grand drama of existence, not spectators watching from behind the bars of safety. The cage of safety is subtle because it doesn't feel like a prison at first. It feels like common sense. It feels like maturity. It feels like doing the right thing. But deep down, you know when you are in it. You feel the ache of unrealized dreams, the quiet resentment at a life too small, the haunting question of what if. These are the signs that the bars have closed around you, and once you see it, you face the same decision Icarus did. Will you obey the warning and hover low, or will you test your wings against the sky? When we stop seeing safety as the ultimate goal, we begin to realize that risk is not something to be avoided but embraced. Risk is the price of freedom. Risk is the cost of greatness, and though it may end in falling, at least the fall proves that you dared. The cage of safety may keep you alive longer, but what kind of life is it if you never taste the sky? The idea of risk is uncomfortable for most people because it threatens the very thing we are taught to protect: stability. But risk is not a side detail of life, it is the essence of growth. Without risk, there can be no real progress, no transformation, no freedom. Every philosopher, warrior, and thinker who wrestled with the human condition eventually arrived at this truth. Playing it safe may shield you from some pain, but it also guarantees stagnation. If you want to grow into who you truly are, you must step into the unknown, into the possibility of failure. That leap, that uncertainty, is what risk really is. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this better than most. He believed that human beings were not finished products but works in progress, constantly in the process of becoming. His famous phrase, "Become who you are," is not an easy instruction. It demands risk. To become who you are, you must tear away the layers of conditioning, comfort, and conformity that society has wrapped around you. You must risk standing apart from the crowd, risk rejection, and even risk collapse. Nietzsche saw this as the highest form of courage because it requires not only confronting the world, but confronting yourself. The person you are meant to become can only emerge when you risk letting go of the person you already are. Without risk, you remain trapped in the smaller version of yourself, never knowing what heights you could have reached. In another culture and another era, Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary Japanese swordsman, echoed the same truth through his life and philosophy. Musashi fought over 60 duels, often against men who were equally skilled and equally determined to kill him. Each time he stepped onto the battlefield, he risked everything. To Musashi, this risk was not something to fear, but something to embrace. In his Book of Five Rings, he emphasizes adaptability, courage, and a presence of mind in the face of danger. He believed that only by risking death could a warrior truly understand life. For Musashi, battle was not just about killing an opponent, it was about facing the ultimate uncertainty and growing stronger from it. Every duel was an act of becoming, of sharpening the spirit as much as the sword. He knew that a life without risk was a life without mastery. Viktor Frankl, though not a warrior in the traditional sense, discovered the necessity of risk in the darkest place imaginable, the Nazi concentration camps. Stripped of freedom, family, and security, Frankl realized that the last human freedom is the ability to choose one's attitude, no matter the circumstances. But this freedom is inseparable from risk. To take responsibility for your life, even in unbearable suffering, is to risk despair, to risk breaking under the weight of meaninglessness. Frankl chose to risk hope, to risk believing that life had meaning even when everything suggested otherwise. His philosophy of logotherapy was built on the idea that meaning is found not in comfort but in struggle, not in safety but in responsibility. And responsibility always involves risk because it demands stepping into the unknown with no guarantees of success. When you look at these three figures, Nietzsche, Musashi, and Frankl, you see a common thread across time and culture. Nietzsche calls us to risk becoming ourselves. Musashi calls us to risk death in order to understand life. Frankl calls us to risk hope in the face of despair. All of them point toward the same truth. Without risk, there is no freedom. Freedom is not the absence of constraints, but the willingness to face them head-on, uncertain of the outcome. A bird is not free because it stays safely in the nest. It is free because it risks falling every time it takes flight. This is why risk is not optional if you want to grow. Every meaningful transformation requires it. Think about learning a new skill. At the beginning, you risk looking foolish. You risk failure, embarrassment, and wasted time. Yet without that risk, you never progress. Think about relationships. To love someone deeply is to risk heartbreak, betrayal, or loss. But without that risk, you never experience intimacy or connection. Think about pursuing a dream. To chase what truly matters is to risk ridicule, financial loss, or the sting of falling short. Yet without that risk, you spend your life living someone else's dream. never your own. Growth demands that we step outside the familiar, and the unfamiliar is always risky. Risk is also what gives life its intensity. Imagine a life where nothing could ever go wrong, where every step was guaranteed, where failure was impossible. At first it might sound appealing, but the more you think about it, the more you realize how empty such a life would be. If there is no risk of loss, there is no joy in gain. If there is no risk of failure, there is no pride in success. If there is no risk of death, there is no value in life. It is precisely because things can go wrong, because we can fall, because we can lose, that our victories and our moments of happiness shine so brightly. Risk gives life its flavor, its urgency, its meaning. Without it, we would be bored gods in a sterile paradise, never knowing what it means to truly live. Freedom and risk are inseparable because freedom is about choice, and choice always carries consequences. To choose one path is to risk losing the others. To choose courage is to risk pain. To choose authenticity is to risk rejection. To choose ambition is to risk failure. The person who refuses to risk ends up choosing nothing. They become paralyzed, trapped in the illusion of safety, which is not safety at all, but a slow suffocation of the soul. The person who embraces risk, on the other hand, experiences freedom in its fullest sense. They may fall, but at least they chose their fall. They may suffer, but their suffering has meaning, because it was tied to something they valued. The necessity of risk also explains why so many people admire those who take chances, even if they fail. We are inspired by explorers who crossed oceans without knowing what lay beyond. We are moved by inventors who risked ridicule to pursue their visions. We are drawn to leaders who risked their lives to stand for something greater than themselves. These figures remind us of what we secretly know, that we too are meant to risk. They remind us that deep down, the cage of safety is not enough, and that the human spirit longs to soar. But here's the paradox. While risk is essential, it doesn't guarantee success. Many who dare will fall. Many who take risks will fail. Yet even in failure, there is growth. Even in falling, there is freedom. Nietzsche, Musashi, and Frankl all understood that the point of risk is not the outcome. It's the transformation that happens in the process. Whether you succeed or fail, the act of daring shapes you, expands you, and frees you from the prison of safety. It is better to be defeated while pursuing something you care about than to live a long, safe life without ever daring at all. So when we return to the myth of Icarus, we see that his flight embodies this truth. He risked the sun, and he fell. But in that risk, he tasted something no one else did. His fall was not just a punishment, it was also a kind of freedom, a moment of transcendence that only risk can bring. He may have died in the sea, but he lived in the sky. His wings, fragile though they were, carried him to a place beyond safety, beyond mediocrity, into the realm of true freedom, and that is what makes his story endure. The necessity of risk is not just a philosophical idea, it is a call to live differently. It is a reminder that safety is not the highest value, that growth is more important than comfort, that freedom is more valuable than security. To live fully is to risk, and to risk is to live fully. When you embrace this, you begin to see risk not as something to fear, but as something to seek. Each risk becomes an opportunity to expand your life, to test your wings, to move closer to the person you are meant to become. And even if you fall, you will know that you truly lived. When people think about failure, they usually picture it as the worst thing that could happen. They see it as humiliation, disappointment, and proof that they were not good enough. Falling, whether in love, career, or ambition, is treated as something to be avoided at all costs. But when you step back and look at the bigger picture of life, you begin to see that failure is not the real tragedy. Failure hurts, yes, but it does not destroy you. What truly destroys a person is not trying at all. To live a life where you never risk, never dare, never stretch your wings, that is the slow, quiet death that eats away at the soul. Falling is painful, but it is also clarifying. When you fall, you learn something about yourself. You see where you were weak and where you were strong. You discover limits, but you also discover resilience. Falling strips away illusions and forces you to confront reality directly. It reminds you that you are human, and being human means vulnerability. But vulnerability is not weakness. It is the proof that you were brave enough to try. Every scar from a fall is evidence that you lived. The pain fades, but the lesson remains. And more importantly, the memory of having dared gives you a sense of dignity that those who never tried will never know. Contrast this with the person who never leaves the ground. They avoid failure by avoiding flight. They convince themselves that safety is wisdom, that staying low to the earth is the smart thing to do, and for a time it feels comfortable. They don't face the embarrassment of rejection, the sting of defeat, or the weight of disappointment. But as the years pass, something begins to gnaw at them. They wonder what could have been. They start to feel the emptiness of a life that never truly began. Regret is their constant companion. Unlike the pain of falling, regret does not fade. It lingers and deepens because it is the pain of unlived potential. The labyrinth in the myth of Icarus is the perfect symbol for this kind of existence. The labyrinth is safe in the sense that it protects you from falling out of the sky, but it is also a prison. You walk the same corridors, day after day, never seeing the sun, never tasting freedom. The walls are high, the paths are predictable, and you convince yourself that this is enough. But deep down, you know that safety inside the labyrinth is not life, it is survival at the lowest level. To rot in the labyrinth, to spend your years pacing in circles while the sky remains forever out of reach, is the real tragedy. Better to burn your wings chasing the sun than rot in the labyrinth. This line captures the essence of what it means to live with courage. If you burn your wings, at least you know you used them. At least you tested what was possible. At least you felt the wind in your face, the thrill of rising higher than you thought you could. The fall may come, but it comes after the flight. Those who never fly never fall, but they also never live. Their wings remain intact but useless, gathering dust as they wither inside the cage of safety. The choice is not between falling and security. It is between flight with the risk of falling, or the certainty of a small, wasted life. Philosophers and writers throughout history have reminded us of this truth. Seneca, the Stoic, once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Wasting life doesn't always look like disaster. More often it looks like quiet comfort, routines that dull the spirit, years spent in the labyrinth. Nietzsche went even further, saying that one must be willing to risk destruction in order to create. He spoke of the need to live dangerously, to embrace the chaos of existence instead of hiding from it. For Nietzsche, falling was not failure but part of the process of becoming. He would argue that the one who never risks never becomes anything more than a shadow of themselves. Even modern psychology supports this. Researchers studying regret have found that in the long term, people regret the things they didn't do far more than the things they did. Failures sting in the short term, but they fade and become stories. Missed opportunities, however, haunt people for decades. On their deathbeds, people rarely lament the times they tried and failed. They lament the dreams they never pursued, the chances they never took, the wings they never tested. The labyrinth feels safe until the end, when you realize it was nothing but a maze leading nowhere. This is why falling is not fatal to the soul, but never daring is. Falling proves that you lived with courage. Never daring proves that you surrendered before life even began. Falling leaves you with scars and stories. Never daring leaves you with silence. Falling expands your world by teaching you what is possible and what is not. Never daring keeps your world small, confined, and suffocating. Falling allows you to stand back up, stronger and wiser. Never daring leaves you crouched in fear, forever waiting for the right time that never comes. Think about some of the greatest breakthroughs in history. Almost all of them were preceded by countless failures. Thomas Edison famously said he didn't fail 1,000 times while inventing the light bulb, he simply found 1,000 ways that didn't work. Every fall brought him closer to success. Imagine if he had chosen safety instead, deciding after the first or second attempt that it wasn't worth the risk. The world would still be in the dark. The same is true for explorers who set sail into the unknown, artists who created works that were initially rejected, and thinkers who challenged the norms of their societies. They fell, sometimes many times, but their willingness to risk made them immortal in memory. The lesson is simple but difficult to accept. Failure is not the enemy. Fear of failure is. Fear is what keeps you grounded. Fear is what builds the labyrinth. Fear convinces you that falling will destroy you, when in truth, falling is often the beginning of becoming. The soul is resilient. It can endure loss, rejection, humiliation, and pain, and still rise again. What it cannot endure is the slow suffocation of a life unlived. To deny your wings, to bury your dreams under layers of safety, is to deny the very essence of your humanity. So when you stand at the edge of a choice, whether to risk or to play it safe, remember Icarus. Remember that his story is not just about the fall, but about the flight. He dared when others did not. He chose the sky over the labyrinth. His fall is remembered, but more importantly, so is his flight. He lives in myth not because he stayed safe, but because he risked everything for a chance at something greater. You have the same choice in your own life. You can accept the certainty of the labyrinth, or you can risk the uncertainty of the sky. And if you do fall, you will fall knowing that you lived. You will fall with the dignity of someone who dared. You will fall, but in that fall, you will carry the memory of flight. And that memory will make you free, even in defeat. For what is life, if not the chance to rise, to test the limits of your wings, to chase the sun even at the cost of burning? It is better to fall with courage than to live forever with regret. Better to burn your wings chasing the sun than rot in the labyrinth. If the myth of Icarus is more than just a story, if it truly holds lessons for how we live, then the question becomes, how do we apply it? It is one thing to admire the daring of Icarus, to be inspired by the idea of flying toward the sun, but it is another thing entirely to step into your own life and decide what that flight means for you. Philosophy becomes powerful only when it is lived. And living the philosophy of Icarus requires three things: identifying your sun, accepting risk as a natural part of the journey, and adopting a mindset where courage matters more than certainty. The first step is to identify your sun. For Icarus, the literal sun represented the impossible, the divine, the thing beyond human reach. For you, it represents your dream, the goal or pursuit so meaningful that it is worth the risk of failure. Everyone has something that stirs their spirit, a vision of life that would make existence feel worthwhile. For some, it is creating art that speaks to the human soul. For others, it is building a business, starting a movement, traveling the world, or simply living authentically in a way that breaks from societal expectations. Too often we bury these desires under layers of practicality. We tell ourselves that our dreams are unrealistic, childish, or selfish. But the philosophy of Icarus reminds us that if you do not aim toward your sun, your wings are wasted. You may not reach it, but the act of striving transforms you in ways safety never could. Finding your sun is not always easy. It requires honest reflection. Ask yourself, what would I do if I had no fear of failure? What pursuit would make me proud to look back on at the end of my life, even if it didn't succeed? What do I think about when my mind is free, when I am not distracted by obligations or routines? These questions point you toward your sun. The answer does not have to be grand in the eyes of the world. It only has to be grand in your own heart. For one person, the sun may be writing a book. For another, it may be raising a family with love and integrity. For someone else, it may be pursuing truth, knowledge, or adventure. The key is that it must be something worth the risk, something that gives meaning to both flight and fall. Once you have identified your sun, the next step is to accept risk as part of the path. Too often, people make the mistake of thinking that if they plan well enough, prepare carefully enough, or wait long enough, they can eliminate risk altogether. They imagine that there will be a perfect moment when the danger of falling disappears and success is guaranteed. But that moment never comes. Risk cannot be removed from life. It can only be embraced. The wings of Icarus were never perfect. They were fragile, temporary, bound together with wax, and yet they were enough to lift him into the sky. In the same way, your own efforts will always feel imperfect. Your circumstances never quite ready. But you must fly anyway. Accepting risk means reframing failure. Instead of seeing it as a final defeat, see it as the cost of daring. Every risk carries the possibility of falling, but falling is not the end. It is part of the process of growth. Musashi did not win every duel because he avoided risk. He won because he entered the battlefield knowing death was possible, and yet he fought with full commitment. Nietzsche did not become who he was by waiting for certainty. He risked rejection, isolation, and madness to pursue his vision of truth. Frankl did not find meaning by waiting for safety. He chose to believe in life's purpose even in the midst of unimaginable suffering. Each of them lived with the awareness that risk is the price of freedom. If you want to live fully, you must be willing to pay that price. The practical mindset, then, is not one of certainty, but one of courage. Too many people postpone action because they want guarantees. They want to know that their business will succeed before they invest, that their love will be returned before they confess, that their art will be appreciated before they create. But life offers no such guarantees. Waiting for certainty is another way of rotting in the labyrinth. Courage means acting without guarantees. It means stepping forward even when the outcome is unclear. It means saying, I do not know if I will succeed, but I know that staying still is not an option. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite fear. In practice, this mindset transforms the way you approach challenges. When you face a difficult decision, ask not, is this safe, but is this meaningful? When you encounter fear, remind yourself that fear is proof you are moving towards something important. When doubt arises, remember that certainty is a myth and that all growth requires stepping into the unknown. This is the formula for flight. It is not about removing fear, but about refusing to let fear decide the direction of your life. To live this way requires daily practice. It means training yourself to take small risks regularly so that courage becomes a habit. Speak up in a meeting when your instinct is to stay silent. Share your work with others even when it feels vulnerable. Try something new without waiting for perfection. These small flights prepare you for larger ones. Each act of courage strengthens your wings, teaching you that risk is survivable, that falling is not fatal, that you can rise again. Over time, you realize that the cage of safety was never as strong as it seemed. The bars were built mostly from your own fear. Living with this philosophy does not mean recklessness. It does not mean ignoring wisdom, preparation, or responsibility. Daedalus was right to warn Icarus of extremes, but the lesson is not to avoid flight altogether. It is to fly with awareness, to accept risk with eyes open, not with blind arrogance. Recklessness ignores risk, courage accepts it. Recklessness denies the possibility of falling, courage prepares for it and flies anyway. When you live with courage, you do not seek to eliminate risk. You seek to live in such a way that the risk is worth it. Ultimately, the personal application of Icarus's philosophy comes down to this: dare to aim high, accept the cost of risk, and choose courage over certainty. This does not guarantee that you will reach your sun. Your wings may melt and you may fall, but even if you do, you will know that you lived a life of flight, not one of endless wandering in the labyrinth. You will know that you tested your wings, that you stretched your potential, that you did not waste the brief gift of life on mere survival. Imagine yourself years from now, looking back on your life. What will you regret more, the times you fell or the times you never tried? The philosophy of Icarus urges you to live in such a way that regret is minimized, that courage defines your choices, that meaning outweighs safety. The fall may hurt, but the memory of the flight will outshine the pain. Better to soar and fall than to never leave the ground at all. So take the wings you have, your talents, your dreams, your possibilities, and lift them into the air. Identify your sun, the thing that makes life worth risking. Accept that risk is not an enemy, but a companion on the journey. And above all, choose courage over certainty. In doing so, you will not only honor the story of Icarus, but write your own story of daring. A story where even if you fall free, having lived as you were meant to, with wings outstretched, chasing the sun.